What's the most inappropriate time you laughed?
At my grandaunt's funeral, she was a big, jolly food lover while alive and is sorely missed. Everything was going along, lots of tears while the vicar was giving the eulogy, until he shared her last words, "Come on. A little whipped cream isn't going to kill me. I lost my shit, this was 10 years ago and I still feel terrible for laughing." My grandma died 2 years ago at 94 and for years she'd been warning everyone that she could die any minute. She was quite healthy for her age. One Christmas she told me which reading I would do at her funeral. One Easter when my uncle from the other side of the family was telling her about his 95-year-old mother, my grandma told him the government should just kill everyone at 95 and get it over with. So her impending death a family joke for over 10 years. Then at her funeral, which she had planned every detail of years before, they played "I'll Fly Away," which is a really dancey, joyous song about dying. It was so her. My sister and I made eye contact and after that we lost it. We were trying to cover our mouths and faces but our shoulders were shaking, so my cousins behind us thought we were crying and tried to comfort us. Eventually we were laughing so hard we were crying, so it evened out. A woman got on stage to sing during a friend's wedding as part of the ceremony. It was naturally a song the bride and groom chose. As soon as she opened her mouth it became clear that she absolutely tone deaf. It sounded like an animal being tortured. I was trying not to laugh but two guys behind me started laughing and it set off a chain reaction of laughter. Even the groom was red-faced from trying not to laugh. She just kind of sheepishly left the stage afterward. Years ago when I was at the academy, one of our classmates did not make it to graduation. So we asked her to come back and sing the national anthem at our graduation ceremony. She had a really great voice and I offered to print out the lyrics for her because it can be a tricky song. She said she didn't need it, she had this down. And then come graduation, she fucked up the words so bad, I couldn't help but laugh. It was the saddest thing. We are all standing at attention with our hands in our hearts, facing the flag. And doing everything we can not to laugh because she completely screwed up the words. I always had a problem laughing when I was being scolded in my childhood. Then I would be scolded further for laughing, then I would laugh more. It was a vicious cycle. Cadaver room. One of my classmates accidentally stuck his finger in a kidney because he thought it was behind glass and tried to poke the glass. He was like, "Squish, oh fuck." Me and a friend were altar boys. An older woman took to the podium to read a Bible passage. The passage described how Jesus loves everyone, the sick and the healthy, the rich and the poor, the circumcised and the uncircumcised. That's all it took for a pair of 10-year-old boys to start laughing hysterically in front of a packed church. Group therapy. A kid, 22 or so, but you get the idea, was talking passionately about his struggles with Asperger's and OCD. He had a squeaky voice. He started talking about his OCD categories, things that belonged under the earth, things that belonged on the earth, things that belonged in the water, and things that belonged in space. He named specific objects, rocks, bugs, etc. He said there were some things he could not fit neatly into his categories, even if they seemed like they were supposed to be in one. This distressed him. He bemoaned cars. He bemoaned women and pointed at one. Then with no segue, announced that the reason he was there was because he snuck into the zoo at night and leapt into the lion enclosure. I had to bury my face in my elbow and turn away. Of course his problems were real, but it just seemed so out of place on a day when people were talking about who diddled them when. This is a bad one. We were watching a news report on coronavirus and this lady was talking about her dead mother or grandmother. She was saying adjectives about how she looked when she died. She was this, she was that, and then I hear the legendary line, "She was dead, obviously." Wasn't that funny, but I started chuckling and my family noticed. I tried to stop but actually couldn't. Had to excuse myself after they continued to make statements which I found hilarious. Funniest and most evil 10 minutes of my year. A young teenager was leaning forward in a chair at a restaurant, lost traction, and slammed their face into the table. Absolute hysterical sobbing ensued. Their parents stopped eating their salads to make sure they were okay. They were, aside from a nosebleed. I was sitting at the table next to them and cracked the fuck up at the sound of them hitting the table, and even more when they started crying. I was a horrible human being in that moment. Feel bad after the fact, but in the moment it tickled me to my core. A buddy of mine tried to fart on the pew in church and fucking unloaded a dump truck load of shit into his pants on accident. This was during a quiet moment, and I was absolutely howling with laughter. Even a regular fart is a bad idea, because it'll clap and echo right off those hardwood pews. Shitting yourself in church is just exquisite though. I would never let him live it down. Lord sure moves in mysterious ways, huh, bud? My daughter was in probably first or second grade and she was doing an online math homework where she had to answer a bunch of math questions and it would give her percentage correct at the end and then re-ask the ones she missed. She was down to one question and got it wrong, so she got 0% correct. She bust out crying because she got 0%, and for some reason I thought that was so funny that I bust out laughing and couldn't stop. And then she got even madder and cried harder because I was laughing at her, which made me laugh harder, which made her cry harder. Used to go to church every Sunday with my mum, who has a very raucous, obnoxious, difficult to stifle laugh. Usually, a lovely lady called Julia would play the organ, but occasionally, just occasionally, Julia would be unavailable for some reason, and Jeremy would step in. Jeremy was a musical maverick, with little to no regard for rhythm, notes or key. He would just hammer down on that organ like he was chasing out the devil. What he was playing would have no relation to the song as the congregation knew it. As a rural British parish, we didn't care to make a fuss. We would all try in vain to sing along as Jeremy's playing got ever more exuberant. Louder and more extravagant with each passing second. Like something from The Simpsons. The more his audience tried, the greater excesses his playing would reach. And the more my mother would laugh. Madly snorting as Jeremy played on like the deranged piper he was. Jeremy only played maybe twice a year, but I fucking lived for those Sundays.